If you want to spend the next hour unwinding, relaxing, and getting a nice full body deep stretch, then this yin yoga class is for you. If you have yoga blocks at home, you might keep them nearby, but if you don't worry. We'll get started in child's pose. You can come into whichever version of child's pose you prefer to target your lower back and your spine. Keep your knees closer together, but to target your hips and your groin, you can have your knees wider apart. Forehead comes down onto the mat. If it doesn't make it, you can have your hands in underneath, bridging the gap, or maybe take a yoga block or a cushion and put it there. And same thing for your hips. If they're not quite reaching your heels, you can have a cushion or a yoga block in underneath. We'll be staying here for 3 minutes. So just take a moment to settle into your yoga practice. Unclenching your jaw, relaxing your facial muscles, unclenching your shoulders and de-scrunching your neck. Breathe as you normally would here. You don't have to force anything or do any special kind of breathing. Your body knows how to breathe, so just let it bring the breath in and send the breath out. And throughout this entire practice, if your mind starts to think, don't worry. It's almost impossible for anybody to clear their mind of thoughts. So you're not doing anything wrong if you're thinking. But as soon as you do notice that you've engaged in thought, just try your best to stop those thoughts. Return to your breath. Return to whatever sensations the pose is presenting to you within your body. Fingertips can come back to the mat now. Use a breath in to slowly push yourself back up. Coming to find a comfortable seat on the mat. And we'll stay here for the next minute, just letting child's pose echo throughout your body. Noticing if anything feels different within you now. Now bringing a little bit of awareness back, we'll prepare for our next pose, which is called Thread the Needle. So we're going to be having our knees on the yoga mat. If knees are sensitive, you can fold your mat to create a little bit more padding. And then from here, we're extending our right hand forward and just threading our left arm in underneath so the left shoulder and ear comes down to the ground. Right hand can stay as it is, or it might extend a little bit further to the top of your mat. In this pose, we're targeting the left shoulder, so you might be starting to feel a little bit of a stretching sensation there. And remember, as long as you're feeling any kind of stretch, you're doing the pose correctly. You're welcome to stay here, or you might take this pose a little bit further by extending your right foot out to the right side of your mat. And if you do that, you'll also start to feel a little sensation within your inner thigh on the right side. And here it's a little bit of a balancing act to keep the sensation both within your shoulder and your thigh. And then if you wish, you can go a little bit deeper into this pose by bringing your right hand in behind your lower back. So you're also starting to open up through that right shoulder. And you'll deepen the sensation by keeping your right shoulder pointed up towards the sky. Bring your awareness back to the natural rhythm of your breath. And then allow it to explore all of these sensations all throughout your body. Now you can start to slowly come out of the pose, just reversing one step at a time. Eventually coming to sit back on the mat just for a breath or two. Now you can make your way back down onto your belly this time. Still working through the left shoulder, but this time targeting it in a different way with broken wing. So you're lying on the mat, extend your left arm all the way out to the left, keeping it perpendicular to your body. Now very slowly you can start to roll over onto your left hip, and then this top leg, which is your right leg, might take a bend into the knee so it can come back behind you. The right fingertips can just stay on the mat, and make sure you're resting your head down on the mat as well. So as always, take your time to explore this pose. The position of your arm is variable. It can be lower or higher depending on how deep you want to go into this stretch. And you can also play your edges just by very slowly leaning a little bit more body weight into that left shoulder, but only of course if your body is inviting you to go to that next edge. Now it's time to slowly roll back onto the front of your body. And once you're there, you can lie in whatever position feels good for you. Maybe coming into crocodile pose or just resting on the ground. Now you can pick yourself back up. And we'll set ourselves up for thread the needle pose on the opposite side. So we have our knees on the mat again. This time the left hand reaches for the front of the mat and your right arm threads in underneath. Maybe a left hand will creep forward a little bit more. You might choose to extend your left leg out to the left. And then final option maybe to bring this left hand in behind your lower back. And it might even try reach for that crease between your hip and your right thigh. As you know, we're holding each pose for 3 minutes today. But if at any point you need to come out of the pose sooner, please feel free to do that. 3 minutes is just a guideline, it's not a necessity. Now you can start to reverse out of your pose. Slowly, slowly making your way back into a seat. And now it's time to come into broken wing, focusing on the right shoulder this time. So coming back onto the front of your body, extending your right arm out to the right, and then slowly rolling onto your right hip. Left foot might come back behind you. Finding your first edge within this pose, the point where you're feeling the stretch within your right shoulder, but you're not feeling as though you're forcing anything, or there should be zero potential for injury or pain within this pose. Now you can slowly transition back out of the pose onto the front of your body. When you're there, forming crocodile pose by making a pillow with your hands, resting your forehead or cheek onto your pillow. Big toes come together and the heels drop towards the edges of the mat. This time feeling the echo of all the poses that you've practiced. Observing again what feels different within your body. And now you can bring yourself back up onto the mat, making your way towards all fours, setting yourself up for your next pose, which is dragon pose. So you can step your right foot forward in between your hands. Back knee might slide back here if you want to go deeper into the pose. And you can have your back foot tucked, or you can have the top of your foot on the mat. If you have yoga blocks, you can place your hands onto those blocks. And we're just going to stay here like this for a few breaths. And just feeling that opening throughout your hips. You can stay here, or if your body is inviting you to go a little bit deeper, you can come into high flying dragon by keeping your weight in the hips and then bringing your hands up onto this right thigh. So you can come into this high flying dragon position. We're going to stay here like this for 1 minute. If it becomes too intense, please come back down. Remember, we never want to go over that edge. Stay where you can comfortably feel the stretch. You're probably feeling this a lot throughout your back, quad muscle, your left hip. If you're struggling to stay balanced here, keep your eyes open and just focus on one point, maybe on the floor in front of you. Generally, a good test in yin yoga to know if you have gone too far is to ask yourself, would I be able to hold this for 5, maybe even 10 minutes? And if the answer is no, then you've gone too far over your edge. You should always feel sustainable within each pose. But with that being said, if you are up in this high flying dragon, you can start to come back down. Staying in the pose, just taking a moment to adjust if you need to. And for the last minute, you can stay here in baby dragon, or you can take it into a twisted dragon by keeping your left hand grounded. Right hand comes up onto the right thigh, and the right foot might extend out towards the right side of your yoga mat. And then very gently you might push this right knee away from you. Start to rotate at the base of your back, then maybe your mid-back, then up into your neck. So maybe you're looking up here. And each inhale helps you to lengthen your spine. Each exhale might help you to twist. And just remember, generally our backs are not used to twisting this way, so it's really important to take it slowly, not to force anything. And take one more Big breath in here. As you exhale, you can slowly return back to center. We'll make our way back into downward facing dog. However you get there is fine, but you might lift your back knee up off of the mat and then bring your right foot back to meet the left. Knees can stay bent here. Drop your head towards the floor, pointing your tailbone up towards the sky as you push yourself away from your hands. And we'll use this pose to release dragon pose. Maybe paddling your feet, swaying your hips from side to side. Or it might feel nice to come up onto your tippy toes and then gently press your heels down. You might repeat that a few times. And now you can drop both knees back down onto the ground, sitting for a moment, just finding your breath and feeling the echo within your hips now. We'll repeat on the opposite side. So now your left foot is coming in between your hands. Back knee might come back slightly. Pausing here for a few breaths. You're welcome to stay here, or you can start to gradually lift up into high flying dragon. And if you are up, you can now come down. And either staying here or maybe finding that twist by bringing your left hand onto your left thigh. Left foot might walk towards the left. Gently press away, only if it feels good. And then start to rotate from your lower back all the way up into your neck, maybe. Now you can untwist, gradually making your way into downward facing dog. Doing whatever you need to do here. Knees can find the mat again. And you can sit whatever way works best for you. Pausing for the next minute. Allowing the body to digest those dragon poses that we've done. Before we move on, just taking a moment to loosen your jaw, relax your face, drop your shoulders, lengthen your spine if you can. Our next pose is dangling pose. So you can bring your feet onto your yoga mat. Hands can be in front and feet are about hip width distance apart. From here, you're slowly straightening up the legs, dropping the head down if that feels comfortable. You can hold opposite elbows. Option 1 is to rest your elbows onto your thighs, and option 2 is to let them hang low. And take a moment to fidget and adjust, and then try to find some stillness within this dangling pose. It can be very tempting to just move around and fidget and look at your toes, but try to bring all of your awareness inwards. Feeling that gentle stretch throughout your hamstrings, maybe within your lower back and along your spine. And just gifting yourself this 3 minutes of surrendering to gravity, letting it and your breath just do its magic on your body. And just a little note here, not to worry how any yin yoga pose looks. They look different on every body. Just focus on how it feels. You can release your fingertips back towards the mat. Take a little bend in your knees, but stay hunched here on the mat because we're going to come straight into squat pose from here. So once you're ready, you can widen your feet apart. Again, don't worry about how this looks. It's okay if your heels are in the air. It's okay if your back is a bit more hunched or if you're a little higher up off of the ground. If you need a little bit of support, you can always have a yoga block in underneath you if you do have one. And if squat is totally inaccessible to you, you can come into a wide leg child's pose, or you can come into happy baby pose. But if you are in squat, you can have your elbows against your knees, and then your palms can come to find each other. You might gently press the knees wider apart. And now we're pausing into our squat pose for the next 3 minutes or 4, however long is appropriate for you. You can come out of squat now in whatever way comes natural to you. Eventually finding yourself on the ground again. Coming into whatever seated position works best. And then pausing here for a minute, feeling whatever you feel. And as you're ready, you can bring your awareness back and slowly come down to lie on your yoga mat. When you're there, giving yourself a moment just to lie on the floor, whatever way feels good. Our next pose is cat pulling its tail. So you can have your left leg long on the mat for now and bring the sole of your right foot onto your left thigh. Your left hand comes to hold this right knee, and then you can stack your hips on top of each other so your left hip is on top, bringing this knee over towards the left side of the mat. Now you want to keep both of your shoulders grounded, and then you might be able to bend your left leg and reach down to find that left foot with your right hand. Now if you need to stack your hips more, you can do that. Just make sure both of your shoulders are staying down. So this pose provides a really nice twist for your back. You might be feeling this within your lower back on the right side. And at the same time, you're getting a nice stretch for your quad on the left side of the body. And if you want to take this stretch up into your neck and go a little bit deeper, you can look over towards the right. Now it's time to unravel the pose, taking your time to find the middle of the mat again. When you're there, just pausing, feeling a difference within the two sides of your body maybe, and just noticing what feels new or different. Now you can stretch your right leg long. Left foot comes onto the right thigh. Right hand holds the knee. And then you're stacking your hips, bringing your left knee over towards the right. Bending your right leg and maybe finding that right foot with your left hand. So the shoulders stay on the mat. Focus on rotating your hips if you do want to go deeper into the pose. And then there's also the option to look left. You can release the pose now. Just taking your time to let everything fall back into place once you're in the middle. And from here you can bring both knees up into your chest. Keep your feet side by side and wrap your arms around your legs. And just a gentle hug here to release your lower back. Finding your breath and encouraging your mind to wander through your body rather than through thought. We'll spend the last 5 minutes of this practice in corpse pose. And I know it might be tempting to skip this part, but stay with us. This is where you really soak up all the benefits of the poses that you've done. So come into whichever version suits you best. Arms can take up lots of space. Legs can do the same, or your knees can be bent and the knees can rest against each other. Palms are facing up. And chin might be slightly tucked towards the chest. Relax your jaw. Unclench your shoulders. Soften your face. Tap into all of this new energy that's now circulating your body. Energy that you created because you made the effort to come here today to your yoga mat. So honor and congratulate yourself for doing that. Bring a little bit of awareness back now, making small movements. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And if you're ready to come out of your practice, you can make your way back up into a seat. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this class. Questions and comments are always welcome below, and make sure to check out my other Yin Yoga classes. I would love to practice with you again soon. So I'll see you next time, but until then, take good care of yourself and goodbye.